Hey everybody, welcome back to Battle Ready Inc. So today's deck profile for you, we're continuing on from our trend and closing out our Greymon list here with a red base BlackWarGreymon X deck. I've had tremendous luck with this deck. Honestly, out of all the ones I put forward so far, surprisingly, this is the one that I've had the most luck with. It's a super aggro low end, and then on the high end, it's your defensive techs. So we'll go ahead and jump into this and you'll see what I mean. By the way, if you're interested in just kind of watching me play other games in general, check out my Twitch page here, Battle Ready Gaming 22. And right now, I'm currently playing through Borderlands 2 as well as Diablo 2 Resurrected. Going to be playing through pretty much all the Diablo games. So if you're interested in that, go check that out. Give me a follow. I'm trying to get up to that 50 followers to get affiliate. All right, so here is the deck pulled up for you guys so you can follow along with us and see what we're working with. And you can see what we're talking about. On that low end, we're very aggro. And then on the top end, we get super defensive. As well as I've got some talking points or some change outs if you want to go that route of some different alternatives here. So right off the bat, of course, we're still rocking the Koromon from BT5, just getting that draw. I feel this is so powerful. With the X antibody option, being able to swing and draw from the when attacking and then evo into whatever it was you drawed has come up for me a ton. So I really like that, as well as even if I got my low end aggro pieces, it'll help me draw into my defensive end pieces. And that's kind of the thought on that one. But there is still the BT9 Koromon. Because we are going super aggro and swinging with basically our level 5s, that's what we're getting most of our security checks with. Having that extra DP can also matter. So if you go into Metal Greymon X, right, he gives himself 3k, and then you might have like another 2 or 4k underneath, maybe, right? So that puts you at roughly around 13, but there's a lot of 13k stuff. This Koromon could put you at that 14k threshold, or if you've got the another 2k, put you at the 16k threshold, which clears everything. The Koromon is that little extra added boost for your level 5s to be able to clear big stuff in security. So that is an alternative if you feel like the consistency isn't quite needed. You'll also notice we are not running Cool Boy in here. I'm just not a big fan of running Cool Boy in here. You can't add him off of any of your searches, things like that. He just feels, I don't know, he can be a brick in reveals, right? And then you can on play, and you got a decent amount of targets in the deck for him, but I don't know. He just never has fit my my play style. For our Agumons, you got the standard stuff here. BT12 is the best one. It reveals 4. It adds a tie and a Greymon or Omnimon. We're not running any Omnimons in this build, but a Greymon and a tie. So the search is really good. And he has the all turns 1k buff, which is also super important in our defensive style on the top end. So we pass turn, we go into like our BlackWarGreymon X, so we're blocking and redirecting. Having a that 1k during our opponent's turn, actually pretty huge. Being able to go up to 14k with a tie, we're at 15k. We're stopping the Leviamon X's, right? The Leviamon X can't, swing in and get a bajillion checks on us because we're super defensive, as well as we have protection from deletion effects. So really good counter to that sort of play. We also have the Agumon X here. This is basically your searcher to get one more Greymons, of course, but also your X antibody option, which is super powerful in this deck. Like I said, being able to swing and then evo mid attack is always really strong. I do that play constantly, even if it's like swing evo into BlackWarGreymon X. I know it's going to pass my turn, but I'm going to get all the great benefits of doing that. Getting your X antibody is important. That's why I run 3 X antibodies. I know some people run 2. I can't do it. Every time I've tried 2, never see it. I run 3, and that gets me there pretty consistently. So Agumon X here to help search that out, as well as just additional draws. And of course, he's a 2. It makes 2 level 3s, so we can trash those for defensive when need be. For this build, I am going back to the BT14 Agumon. I played around with like different Agumons in this spot. The BT5 one searches, but we're not running any Omnimon, so I don't really want to run the BT5 one. There is one of the Shine Greymon ones that digs 4, and it adds a Greymon in name. It also grabs a Marcus, but basically it's a dig 4 for a Greymon. Like, that one's pretty good too. It's one of the red-yellow ones. Oh, man. Oof. words got mixed up on that one. But this one's really powerful because in tandem with the BT5 Greymon, man, BT5 is a good set. Is really strong. So start of your, of course, he evos on top of Koromon for 0. But start of your main phase, if you have a tamer with Tai in its name, this Digimon may digivolve into Greymon in your hand without paying the cost. Now, if it can't be Greymon X antibody, it has to just be Greymon, but without paying the cost. So if you go into that BT5 Greymon, which we'll discuss in a second, you'll gain that memory back. So Evo for free and then +1 memory. And then your turn, he gives a 2k buff, which is really important, again, for this strategy where we need DP buffs for our level 5s to be our main aggro swingers. And then to go right into this, we've got the Greymon here from Starter Deck 1. I love this one. That security attack +1 is really good. I love it. There's just not much else to say. My issue with like the black-based BlackWarGreymon or just kind of other variants of BlackWarGreymon is it's so defensive, it just doesn't have enough punch. And we're making up for that. One, we're including the Metal Greymon X antibody that gives security attack +1, as well as we're including this Greymon that gives security attack +1. This is what helps the deck beat aggro. In a normally BlackWarGreymon focused deck is not super aggro. It can be a little bit with a Guilemon, right? But like this helps us, compete with other fast decks as well as being defensive afterwards. Then we go into the BT5 one, which we already talked about. When digivolving, if this Digimon has Agumon and its Digivolution cards, gain 1 memory. Again, it has to specifically be Agumon X. If you go Koromon, Agumon X antibody, and then you go into this Greymon, you don't get the effect. So you have to have Agumon, just a regular Agumon in the inheritables to get that 1 memory. But again, you use this in tandem with the Agumon that lets you Evo for free into this guy, really good. Even on top of another Agumon where you're just gain 1 memory back, he essentially becomes a 1 Evo cost Greymon, which is still fine. And he's also going to give us a 2k buff for our bigger guys here. So even if you don't have the security attack +1, depending on the matchup, you might actually be better off with this Greymon being able to get that 2k buff so that way you can ensure that you're surviving those security checks. Again, something like a Leviamon X deck where they've got some pretty big high-end stuff there. Of course, we have the Greymon X antibody from BT9, the inheritable that lets you trash 2 of the same sources to prevent deletion by effects, return to hand, or bottom of the deck. It gives us that generic protection there. Of course, you still die to stuff like Chaos Degradation and Lone Key and things like that. But those are kind of, I don't know, I feel like they're slowly making their way out of the meta. Setcon has been still pretty popular, but I feel like Setcon is dying off just enough that we can play Greymon again. And as long as Setcon is out of the mix, like Greymon decks, Machinedramon decks, those have a really good chance of doing well. So that's one of the reasons I've been making so many of these videos. I just feel like this is the time that we could capitalize on it. And then we've got the BT11 Greymon X, just that being able to reduce the Evo cost by 1 for every color that digivolves on top of it. So our Metal Greymon here becomes a 1 Evo cost on top of this guy. He's restricted to 1, so we're only going to play 1. And then his protection and inheritable is a little bit different. It's the same type of prevention from deleted by effects or return to hand or bottom deck. But instead of trashing 2 of the same levels, you trash an X antibody option card to the bottom of the deck, which can also be nice because then you can just slot in another X antibody and keep going. I actually played against this deck a while back, and they had Death X, or I had Death X on the field, sorry, and they had their BlackWarGreymon on field, and it kept dying, right? Or air quotes, it would have died to Death X, but they would bottom deck the X antibody at the end of their turn. They had no cards left in their deck. Every turn, they bottom decked X antibody, and then for turn, drew into X antibody, sourced it, and it was just, oh my god, it was frustrating. His deck was empty except for the stupid X antibody that kept cycling back in. Crazy game. But yeah, that is the thing you can do. But besides that, being able to just slot back in a second one to turn your protection back on is always really good. Moving on there, we've got the Metal Greymon from BT12 here with the Raid. Evos for 3 on top of Greymon in name. So this one can Evo on top of a Greymon X antibody and still be good. Yeah, again, that Raid is really powerful in conjunction with what we're doing here. All turns, once per turn, when an attack target is switched, you may play one black or red tamer with a play cost of 4 or less from your hand without paying the cost. This is super good because we can go Yuya or tie, depending on the matchup and depending on the situation. If you know that you're about to run into a big option-heavy potential insecurity and you just want to circumvent all of it, you can play out a Yuya, and then what we're going to do is we're going to use our X antibody to Evo mid-attack into our Metal Greymon X here, and because we leveled or we Evoed on top of the same level, we can use our Yuya here to get that protection, right? But same in reverse though. If you want to go tie, you need the DP buff that tie gives, as well as you're not going to be able to kill your opponent this turn, and that blocker is going to be really powerful. You can use your Metal Greymon here to then play out a tie instead. So super flexible card. I like that it can play either or in this deck. Feels really good. And then of course he's got that piercing, which is so good in this strategy. Like literally this guy and then this Metal Greymon X vaccine type together, I've won. Out of all the single combos I've ever done in this game, these two cards right here, this combo has won me the majority of games. Like if you were to look at a single combo that I did that won me the game, this is the one, like hands down, that's done it. So Evo or swing with Metal Greymon, X antibody, or we raid, we play out our free tamer, X antibody when attacking, we then Evo into this Metal Greymon X for 0. When digivolving, this Digimon gains security attack +1. And then if it has X antibody or Metal Greymon in the sources, you also gain 3000 DP. And because he fits the classifications, we get our piercing effect. It has Greymon in name, so it turns on our piercing. So we're raiding, we're piercing, we're security attack +1 minimum, maybe security attack +2 if you have this Metal Greymon here. Just really solid strategies there. And then you're piercing, you're clearing your opponent's big threat that they have on field. Your guy's actually surprisingly really big. Like I said, you get one of the Agumon or the Greymon, giving him 2, and then he gives himself 3. If you use the tie, he's at 4. If you're using the Koromon, he's it just keeps going, right? And you add the Greymon. If you don't have the security attack +1, you have the other Greymon. He's big, okay? He's absolutely massive, and he's clearing everything. So on your level 5, and that's where your biggest punch is, because you don't always follow up all these plays, right, with a Guilemon. Like if I can't do my raid shenanigans on Metal Greymon, because that's in the red base where you would Evo into War Greymon, swing, raid, do all that fun stuff. But with this, I'm using the Metal Greymon to, 1, cheat our Tamers into play, and get our raid in this deck. We've got our piercing, we've got our security attack, we're good. I don't have to worry about losing a mega in like a security check to like a crazy option, like a chaos deck or something like that. It doesn't matter if I had the BlackWarGreymon, I had the Guilemon, or I had the Metal Greymon X. If I'm hitting into a kill option that circumvents my protection, I'm going to lose anyway. But I'm going to be able to get the DP buff to be able to swing over everything big, so I feel really good about it. And that's the base red package. Then we go into our top end, which is our defensive stuff here. We've got the BlackWarGreymon here, which is great for those Tamers matchups. Red hybrids making a comeback, so this being able to just blow up Tamers, always good. Being able to pop 2 3Ks or 3 play costs at once, really good. There's just plenty of stuff out there. A lot of the Seekers Tamers, right, that they like to mind link, you're popping those guys. He's just really solid. I debated pulling him out of the deck, and we're going to talk about that in a second of some other stuff. But for one, he Evos on top of red, and that was a big thing, is if I go Metal Greymon X here on top of my Metal Greymon, it's red. So I have to be able to Evo on top of that. But yeah, the defensive tech of it is really nice. And then tie, giving him blocker in all turns, not just your turn, but on your opponent's turn as well. When opponent's Digimon is deleted, you may unsuspend this Digimon, so he can become a double blocker during your opponent's turn, which is great. So you don't have to have the redirect and the blocker from BlackWarGreymon to stop 2 attacks. You can stop 2 attacks with this guy. So he's just really, really strong. Ended up deciding to keep him in the deck. Now, some alternatives that I was looking at, though, and these were actually feeling pretty good for an aggro-focused BlackWarGreymon deck. The promo 26 here, Digiburst 2, unsuspend this Digimon, you just keep swinging, right? The issue was it doesn't combo well with the Metal Greymon X that gives security attack +1. If that was the case, oh man. You could still swap this one out for the duo color Metal Greymon X. You don't get that extra security attack, but you could still run this Greymon here and swing multiple times, right? So you got 2 level 3s that you can trash, you got 2 level 4s that you can trash, 2 level 5s that you can trash. That's 3 unsuspends right there on this guy. If you're running the Altarius mode for Metal Greymon, you can trash that in a Koromon to unsuspend a 4th time on this. That's 5 attacks, and 5 attacks at security attack +1 for at least 4 of those. that's 9 security checks. That's 8 and then +1 for the final swing. Like, he can put in some work, and this deck has popped off before. You'll see it every once in a while. This promo BlackWarGreymon will actually make top cut in regionals just out of nowhere because people don't expect it, and it's solid. Like, it's a solid strategy. The BlackWarGreymon secret rare from BT2. We talked about this in our other deck profile, but I wanted to mention it here as well in case you missed that one. You can play him for cheaper, but that's never going to be the case. But when attacking, if you attack your opponent's Digimon with the highest DP, unsuspend this Digimon. Where that's really good here is Zubamon here. Your turn, while you have a black or legend arms trait Digimon, this Digimon gains raid. So you can just evo this guy in raising area. He can evo on top of our Koromon. We're good here. He's red. All of our level 4s can evo on top of him. No problem. No issues there. And none of our Greymons are black box text for at least this situation. You'll lose out on the memory gain, but if you're evoing raising area, you're fine anyways. Or you can just play him and source him as well. But evoing raising just feels better. So you get raid on your BlackWarGreymon guy here. So then you're always guaranteeing that if you attack your opponent's highest, or your opponent's Digimon with the highest DP, the attack doesn't have to go through. They can block it with something else because the unsuspend happens before that happens. It's a when attacking. So you're going to unsuspend. I'm just targeting that with raid, right? And if it's not suspended, then you can just choose it as a normal. If you don't have to raid because it's suspended. So you're still choosing that as your attack target. This guy can just keep attacking. So if your opponent has a field full of stuff, you throw in that raid underneath this guy and he just swings and swings and swings until your opponent's whole field is empty. And with piercing, that feels really good. Really, really good. So he is still an honorable mention as well. Both these BlackWarGreymons are really, really outstanding. It's a shame they don't combo with the security attack +1 vaccine type. You have to use the 1 Evo cost Metal Greymon, which doesn't have as much synergy, like inheritable wise, with these two, which is a shame. You could also just forego a Metal Greymon X if you want for a BlackWarGreymon, just like you can run this one, and with the new black box text that gives security attack +1, you could run that one from the starter deck with these guys and put in some work. Absolutely. All right, getting into the rest of this build right quick, though, we've got, of course, BlackWarGreymon X. He is the namesake of the deck. Evos for 2 on top of BlackWarGreymon, so of course you still want to run a couple BlackWarGreymons, but plenty of times you're just going to evo this guy for 5 on top of your level 5s. Again, after they've already attacked is fine, and yeah, and then he just gets to do all this fun stuff. So he's got reboot. So in conjunction with tie, he's a blocker on your opponent's turn at 13,000, maybe bigger. If you got tie, probably at least 14. Opponent's turn, when your opponent's Digimon with the highest DP attacks, you may switch the target of attack to this Digimon. So you don't even have to actually waste a block with him. You can just redirect something as well. Or say you do block, you can still choose to redirect afterwards. Just really, really strong. Basically like a pseudo double blocker. And then opponent's turn once per turn when a Digimon becomes unsuspended. If this Digimon has BlackWarGreymon or X antibody in its distribution cards, you may delete one of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest play cost. It is lowest play cost, and your opponent can play around it a little bit, which is unfortunate. But at least if you're rebooting, it's at the beginning of their turn before they can play around it. But also keep in mind, guys, if they don't have anything when you reboot, there's no targets, and then they do something during their turn that causes them to unsuspend. Like, unfortunately, I played against a Mirage player that didn't quite Mirage Galgamon that didn't quite understand how this card worked. And yeah, they swung, and then they unsuspended, and then blew themselves up because they didn't know any better, which is a shame. But even if they did, like, we as players, like, that is a thing that you have to worry about. So you actually can turn off certain decks, like WereGarurumon, Garurumon style decks. You just completely nuke those decks because they're like, oh, I just can't unsuspend during my turn. Cool. And that's like their whole strategy. So super powerful card. And then we got Gaomon here. I'm happy that I can throw this guy back into the deck. He was cut for a little while, but he actually feels really solid right now. So if you don't do the whole raid shenanigans we talked about earlier, you can just Evo into Gaomon for 5 or for 2 on top of BlackWarGreymon if you somehow still have the memory to keep turn when you Evo into the Black War. But then you've got Security Attack +1 and Reboot all the time. He's 13k base, and then just goes up from there. When Digivolving, if this Digimon has black source, it can de-Digivolve. If it has a red source, it blitzes. You're going to have both no matter how you get to this guy. I don't think. I guess there's a slim chance you could be only red, but realistically not. You should have at least some black sources in there. But the de-Digivolve right now is super strong. Armors is making a comeback. De-Digivolve against Armors is so strong. Really, really like that. It was good against Merva because you just de-Digivolve their Merva and all those things on their field that had a retaliation with blocker. Like, no, those aren't blockers anymore, so I'm just going to go right past and be fine. There's just plenty of stuff. Dark Masters is really strong with like the Apocalypse. Like, you just de-Digivolve their one of Apocalypse and like you're feeling pretty good after that. Of course, they can always recycle it, but still, like, it's just a simple thing. I just de-Digivolve and then I'm blitzing, right, with Security Attack +1, and then I'm going to reboot as well. So with my blocker, he's just a really powerful card. He is a big 5 Evo cost, but he puts in work. And Gaomon is my favorite Digimon in all of Digimon's franchise. BlackWarGreymon with Samurai Armor. I'll say it every single time I talk about this guy, and I will love it every single time. Just a really strong powerhouse boss monster. Really nice and generic. Plays around a lot of cards. If you have like other suggestions about that de-Digivolve, definitely put it in the comment section below what other good decks like hard counters. Machinedramon, being able to de-Digivolve a Machinedramon can be really good as well. So we got tie, which we've talked about several times. So start of main phase or on play, one of your Digimon with Agumon or Greymon gets 1k and blocker till the end of your opponent's turn. And then also your turn, when one of your Digimon digivolves into a Greymon or Omnimon in its name, suspend this tamer to gain 1 memory. So even if you don't have a memory fixer on field, you can at least use this guy to help keep your suspensions cheaper. He's just a really strong card. We get to play him for free, like off of our raid here. Even a 3-drop isn't bad in the right situations. He's a good card. So we play him at a 3 of here. You really, really want to see your tie. At least one of them. Then we got the Yuya here. Yuya is just for those certain matchups. Some people only run one Yuya. I just don't like one-ofs if I can help it when possible, usually. So I run 2, and 1, it's also a memory fixer, right? I can just drop this guy. He's a memory fixer. I feel really good about it. And then plenty of times I'm X-Evoing on top of another Digimon. So I can actually get the secondary effect of that. Can't be affected by your opponent's card effects or their option cards, right? And I get a 2k buff. Like, that's just great. And then just to go off of that, when one of your Digimon digivolves into a Digimon with Greymon in its name, by suspending this tamer, that Digimon gains 2k. So just evoing into Greymon with name, I get a 2k buff. We already talked about how good that is in this deck. So again, you play Yuya for free off of your Metal Greymon, and then you evo into your Metal Greymon X here, suspend Yuya. That's another 2k. I think we're up to like 19k now, something like that, 18, 19 on a level 5. Like, yeah, really good. So Yuya, I think Yuya is a must-have, especially in like an aggro deck like this where you're getting a lot of security checks. Being able to turn off all your opponent's options basically that are hitting security that like kill your stuff feels so good. Like, oh, let me just swing for 3, 4, 5 security checks. Like if I go into Guilemon with like the full stack there, I've got security attack, what, plus 1, 2, 3. So yeah, 4 security checks there. Yeah, that feels really good to not have to worry about option cards. X Antibody, which we've already talked about, you 0 cost, you source it underneath a Digimon that doesn't already have it. And in security, it gains you a memory, so it's like a mini Hammer Spark in security, which actually does come up, and it is quite nice. Let's see, it can't be trashed, which actually also comes up when they have stuff like trash the bottom Digivolution card of one of your opponent's Digimon, or trash the bottom 2. They can only trash basically the Koromon because this is the bottom one and it can't be trashed. So that's good. But mainly we just run it for the when attacking. This Digimon can Digivolve into a Digimon card with X Antibody and its trait from your hand for its Digivolution cost. That when attacking is so strong. You just got to make sure you do your when attackings in the correct order, right? Don't do stuff wrong in the wrong order and then you miss out on timing. So super good card. It really, like, this card also is one of those that, like, without this card, this deck just doesn't exist. It just doesn't do anything like it should. I've got 3 offensive trainings in here. So you're searching out your red stuff. This is a red base. All of our megas also qualify. The only thing we're not hitting is our tamers, which is a little unfortunate. But we can search our ties, like with the Agumon, so that's okay. We have 3 ties anyway, so we have a good chance of drawing into him. He's not like a must-have searcher for the deck, but I do like the flexibility of I could add another training off the training search or a Hades Force. So reveal 2, add a red card, and then delay, pop this to Evo for a reduced cost of 2, which is actually really good. If you can go to like the Metal Greymon here for super cheap, and you can then Evo into your Metal Greymon without actually having to worry about attacking. And then you can go into like your big megas as well. Like offensive training can really make some big plays here. So that's why I decided to include it, just because it does come up, and there's plenty of times where I'm just like, yes, like this feels really good to be able to reduce my Evo cost by 2, especially because like 2 of our level 5s are 5 Evos, and then the other one is a 4 Evo. So like they're really expensive Evo costs. Being able to reduce by 2 feels really good, as well as the search. And then to round it out here, we do have 2 Hades Force. This card's kind of awkward. It's one of those, it's like, oh, I play it when I'm ahead to stay ahead, right? If I'm in a position where I'm like, okay, let me just hard play Hades Force, I'm just going to kind of win off of this because there's no way you're coming back. I'm going to clear your field, I'm going to clear your tamers, whatever the case may be. It feels really good. But if you're behind, right, it doesn't feel as good. But I do like that there's some times where I can do the big combo play, right, with the Metal Greymon. I can play this guy for 5 because I'm going to slide in X Antibody underneath, reduce this cost by 2, so it's a 5. Play this, I'm going to be able to pop up to 7k worth of stuff, right? And then the second part of the effect kicks in, and then one of your Digimon Greymon in its name may attack a player. So then I can swing with my Metal Greymon here into a player, right? And then I can raid into another Digimon, and then we can do that whole shenanigans we talked about earlier with the Metal Greymon X and things like that. So, like, there's good synergies, even if you're not, like, super ahead. Like, just having your Metal Greymon play and, like, okay, I'm just going to do this for 5, swing Evo for 0 into my Metal Greymon there, right? It's not a bad play, right? Just for a 5 play cost, deleting up to 7k worth or 7 play cost worth of stuff. Again, deleting tamers is always very powerful. Security effect is fine. Delete one of your opponent's Digimon at the highest play cost. Again, you don't get to choose, which is a little unfortunate. But usually the thing you're killing with a Hades Force, like, the big bomb in security that gets to blow something up is usually the big guy. It's just seldom cases where you want to actually delete the little guy that's like, oh, this is the last card in security and you've got one more attack and I can't target it because it's not the largest play cost. Like, that kind of sucks. But in general, usually you want to kill the big threat anyways. Some alternative choices here. I did skip a few here. Instead of, if you want to drop the BT15 Agumon down by 2, I debated adding in some Gatsumons. Players can't play Digimon by effects. Leviamon X is everywhere right now, and being able to turn your opponent off from being able to play their Leviamons from trash for free is so good. So, like, this is just a really nice counter to some decks out there. Bloom has been picking up in popularity as well. This turns off them being able to play out their stuff in Bloom Lord. You know, there's some real big meta techs out there. Flame Hellscythe, in case you're not familiar with that interaction, by the way, Flame Hellscythe does the DP minus, and then it plays something else out. The Digimon doesn't get deleted until Flame Hellscythe completely resolves. So because Gatsumon is what they're trying to kill with Flame Hellscythe, the second half of Flame Hellscythe just fizzles. They don't get to play out their target, and then once the Flame Hellscythe goes to trash, then Gatsumon dies. So, yeah, found that out with Palmamon a while back, and yeah, it's pretty crazy. So there are some really cool interactions with Gatsumon. Some alternative ties that you could play. If you don't want to play the Yuya, if you want to go more aggro, you can play the BT1 that we play in the BlackWarGreymon deck here. He's going to give all of your red Digimon with 4 or more Digivolution cards gain security attack +1. We're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 potential sources underneath your Metal Greymon X here. Even if you miss like 2 along the way, you still qualify for this. So you're going to have security attack +1 on your Metal Greymon as well. So that puts you up to potentially security attack +3 on your level 5, swinging at a bajillion. So that instead of Yuya, you could go that route. This tie I've been having pretty good luck with. This is supposed to go for the Agumon deck, right? But just being able to promote out a raising area, gain a memory, draw a card, that feels really good. And it's been really, really great because of that. So it's similar to the black tie here that reduces the evo, or yeah, it gains you a memory after you evo. This one is also gaining you a memory, and usually the turn you're promoting out of raising area is the turn that you plan on using these type of effects. So, and the extra draw instead of the blocker is basically what you're getting there. Honorable mention is the BT14 one. I'm not a fan of this one personally. I would not suggest running this one, but I know some people do. It has a great alt art, but that alt art is dirt cheap. There's kind of a reason it's dirt cheap. It's because no one really likes it or runs it. Start of your main phase, one of your Digimon with the vaccine trait gains plus 2000 DP for the turn, which again is not going to help you on your high end as much because they're virus types. And then your turn, when a card is removed from your opponent's security stack, by suspending this tamer, gain 1. So if you do your swing and your evo, if you were to play, say, the Metal Greymon X virus type, then you know you're gonna get that security check. Then you can gain a memory there, stuff like that. And keep turn. That was where I was going with that. So you're gonna pay that 1 to evo. You say that put your opponent to 1. This tie is then gonna gain you a memory back after the piercing goes off and you get a security check. It's okay, but it's out of all of these different ties you could choose from, it's at the bottom. So why not just play the better choices here? The only reason you would ever want to play this tie is because its alt art is really, really nice. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have any questions, please put it in the comment section below. I'll happily answer. If you have any suggestions or comments or anything like that, please put it there. I'm happy to read it, and I'm always happy to learn new things in case I missed something, got something wrong, or you have a suggestion of how to improve. I would love to hear it.